So we are now live on YouTube, sir.
Good, Sumit, good.
Credit goes to Shyam again.
Credit goes to all of you working for IT committee very dedicatedly. Be it Sham, be it Bharat, be it you, all of you. Bharat, you make all the speakers, Madam Genji, with sub, all co-hosts, Barkha
म्यूट कर
also.
लीजिए।
Yeah, we
Vaidik
have
आवाज-
made Jain ji, Kamal Jain ji,
Yeah.
yourself.
पवन वैद्य का कर दो अनम्यूट
हाँ,
सर। एक मिनट सर, वैद्य का अनम्यूट करो भैया।
Bharat, can you unmute Ved ji, Pawan Ved sir?
हाँ, मेरा आवाज आ रहा है?
हाँ, नमस्कार
हाँ,
सर,
सर।
नमस्कार. Welcome
नमस्कार.
sir.
सर
थैंक यू.
हाँ, थैंक यू सर।
ठीक है ना? इट्स ओके.
Yes sir, it's okay. Welcome sir. नमस्कार.
नमस्कार.
Sumit.
चांद साहब नमस्कार। एलकेबी चांद साहब नमस्कार।
सुमित, वैद जी को
नमस्कार,
आपको
सर।
co-host बनाना पड़ेगा
हैं?
और
हाँ.
बरखा को co-host बना दो.
हाँ भरत.
क्लिक कर दिया तो म्यूट हो गया। अभी वाइट म्यूट लिखा है नीचे माया म्यूट म्यूट कीजिए। नहीं Welcome, welcome, Honorable Shimaji. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. जी.
आप आए बाहर आई.
Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, madam. Welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Madam, I think we need to wait for 3-4 minutes to start on time at 4 o'clock. I don't think it is inconvenient to you.
That's okay.
Good evening, ma'am. How have you been? Nilima Joshi here.
It's talking to me?
Yes, I was just telling you good evening. How have you been?
Oh, good. I'm fine. I'm fine. Yeah. जो ये वाला मेरा डब्बा जरा देना.
अरविंद भाई नमस्कार. काफी लोग जुड़ गए हैं. We have already completed a century. Now we are
Yes, sir.
102. आनंद जी नमस्कार.
आनंद जी म्यूट पे हैं. नमस्कार सर.
नमस्कार सर, सबको नमस्कार.
नमस्कार नमस्कार. वेलकम.
नमस्कार टू एवरीबॉडी.
नमस्कार.
नमस्कार जी. नमस्कार. नमस्कार सबको. सर वेस्ट बंगाल में प्रेसिडेंट रूल लगा दिया. अभी अभी न्यूज आया है।
अभी सर अभी न्यूज आई है सर।
हाँ, ब्रेकिंग न्यूज बता रहा है कि प्रेसिडेंट रूल इन वेस्ट बंगाल प्ली एडमिटेड एक्सेप्टेड बाय सुप्रीम कोर्ट।
yesterday I was watching one video जो आते रहते हैं ये, उसमें बोल रहा था कि ममता बनर्जी विल टेंडर रेजिग्नेशन टुमारो मॉर्निंग। तो हम लोगों ने सोचा कि वो ऐसे ही है जो बना के भेजते रहते हैं जस्ट चीप पब्लिसिटी के लिए।
Spano con la pila la cara. Spano con la pila.
ठीक है सर, वो अलग अलग इसके कर दिया,
हाँ, ठीक।
रिटर्न करेंगे सोमवार को बोला ले आना।
सर स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं हम लोग, भरत भैया।
हाँ जैन सर, it's 4 o'clock we start.
यस,
Respected former member CBDT, Madam Seema Khurana Patra, former Commissioner of Income Tax, Pawan Vedji, I can see Chansab also. The speakers for today, Narayan Jain ji, Pawan and past presidents of DTPA, dear members. A very good afternoon and welcome all to this study circle meeting. The topic for today's session is new provisions of reassessment, natural justice and remedies against abuse of power by authorities. We are delighted to have Madam Seema Khurana Patra as chief guest of the session, and the speakers for the session are Pawan Vedji, former Commissioner of Income Tax from Indore, and our former President, Sri N.P. Jain ji. Mr. Jain will deliberate on the reassessment provisions, while Mr. Ved will take us through the provisions on natural justice and remedies against abuse of power. Mr. R.D. Kakada, our former president of the association, is the coordinator of the session, and helping me are our joint secretary Barkha Agarwal and Bharat Saragi, Sumit Bihani of IT committee. I welcome once again all and to begin with the session, let's welcome Madam Seema Khurana Patra with a big round of applause, which will not be heard, but Madam, symbolically, we applaud your appearance here in the session once again. We had not many occasions while you were in Calcutta. Most of us know that she is an IRS officer of 1983 batch. She was appointed as a member of CBDT in December 2019, and prior to that, she served in various positions all across India. And let me remind you of the pleasant memories DTPA members have while she was in Calcutta, serving as Principal Chief Commissioner of West Bengal, Commissioner of Income Tax, West Bengal and Sikkim. It was, as I recall correctly, it was 2017 and 18. And Madam graced many on our programs on many occasions. and we have very pleasant memories. We had quite a number of occasions we approached her with various problems regarding tax administration, and let me tell you, all the times it is very easy to approach her, and most of the times we got favorable response on all issues at a slightest, least possible time. With these words, I welcome Madam and request her to address our participants in today's session. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you. A very good evening to everybody. Mr. Pavan Ved, my esteemed senior, Mr. Narayan Jain, advocate, Mr. Goyal, president of the DTP, and all who are present here today for the webinar. I'm really grateful that I've been invited for this program. You know, I retired, as you know, a few months ago, and it's nice to revisit the Income Tax Act again. I was, like he said, Mr. Goyal said, I was the principal CC in Kolkata some years ago, and I have really interacted with the DTPA and found their programs to be really topical and up to date. And this program also that they are doing today is, the topic is very appropriate because it's a brand new reassessment procedure that has been brought about. The department, as you all know, has undergone a lot of changes in the last few years. We are now nearly completely computerized. And this digitization has helped us to shorten the assessment life cycle, has helped the department to give refunds much faster, has helped the department to issue PANs nearly instantly, has made all the processes transparent, and has also curtailed a lot of discretion by the officers. And this digitization has also means that the department is now collecting a lot of information from third parties and from the other enforcement agencies. And this list is growing every year. So the department is able to pick up discrepancies between the returns and the discrepancies with the returned income and the information that they have. You all know that last year, 2 years back, the new assessment procedure, faceless, was brought out. Now it is the turn of the reassessment procedure, which has been changed in this Finance Act 21. Now this new procedure, the department hopes that it will reduce litigation and it will ease the burden of the taxpayer. And there'll be certainty which the taxpayer will, get, because we are not able to reopen cases endlessly. Now, this new procedure has basically three important tenets. Firstly, it has reduced the time limit from 6 years to 3 years for normal cases, and in the bigger cases up to 10 years. Now, this will definitely reduce litigation. Now then, another new provision has been brought in, which is for the first time, that there is a procedure for inquiry by the officer and providing an opportunity to the assessee before issue of a formal notice. This was not there earlier. This is again an assessee-friendly provision. And third, that is the very important point that has been brought in, is that the approvals now have to be taken at a much, much higher level than earlier, which means that the cases above more than 3 years, they have to be approved by the principal CC. The principal CC is the senior most officer in the field. So because of this, it is hoped that arbitrariness will go, and only those cases will be selected which deserve, to be reopened. Now, all this means a little simplification of procedures and reduction of litigation. But as I know that Mr. Jain has prepared a big PPT which will show places where there can still be a litigation and which are little areas, maybe little gray. That will of course continue, and there'll always be a lot of issues. But it is simpler than before the earlier procedure. But what I want to say, the bottom line is that you should impress upon the assessees that they must declare their incomes properly and truly, and not indulge in any tax evasion, because just because the time limit has been reduced to 3 years, it does not mean the department will not be able to catch. The department is gathering a lot of information, and the department will ultimately know. So my request is that this is the bottom line, that you have to pay your taxes correctly and declare your income correctly. Thank you. I don't want to take much more time. I'm waiting to hear from the speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Thank you for your kind words for DTPA, as well as good advice to all the participants that let us not encourage any kind of tax evasion. That is well received. I now go to the main session and the deliberation on the subject topic. Friends, we all know that the reassessment provisions are changed in 2021 finance bill, and the new provisions, there is a completely shift from reason to believe to information. The provision, the time limit has been shortened, and it's earlier, now it's 3 years. And we had many sessions under different umbrellas on these reassessment provisions. And one of these sessions we also held. But probably none of the sessions there was deliberation on whether these notices which have come after 1st of April 2021 are valid notices, or these will be dealt with in some other manner, and what is the chances of these being dropped. So I have requested the speaker to incorporate certain aspects in his deliberation on these issues also. And to address all these issues lucidly, we have our former president of the association. All know Narayan Jain ji. I need not introduce him. By profession, he is an advocate, a prolific speaker, an author, and a notable personality in tax profession all across India. So, friends, as I said in the beginning, I need not introduce him, and rather we should save on time. Yeah, I am also aware that he has prepared a very large preparation of a PPT on this. So I hand over the proceedings to Narayan ji for his deliberation. Over to you, sir. Please unmute, sir.
Yes. Thank you, Narendra Bhai. And I am personally grateful to Madam Seema Khurana Patra ji for very kindly accepting our invitation to be the chief guest on the occasion. And also, we are grateful to Shri Pawan Ved ji, nowadays in Indore, and Madam is nowadays in Bombay. So we are having the privilege of having both of them in this seminar. And because both of you are here, so much of participants are there, more than 200. And many people will be also watching on YouTube. So now coming to the subject. You see, Madam rightly told that reassessment procedure has undergone a sea change, and there are many changes which are taxpayer friendly. And if I may kindly refer to the memorandum explaining the Finance Bill 2021, it states the assessment or reassessment or recomputation of income, escaping assessment to a large extent, is now information driven. That is what the government says. In view of this, there is a need to completely reform the system of assessment or reassessment or recomputation of income, escaping assessment, and the assessment of such related cases. It is expected that the new system If I repeat, it is expected that the new system would result in less litigation and would provide ease of doing business to taxpayers, as there is a reduction in time limit by which a notice for assessment or reassessment or recomputation can be issued. So the finance minister has clearly stated what is the purpose of introducing the new procedure, and it has been expected that there will be lesser litigation in time to come. And they have knowingly and intentionally, they have reduced the time limit for reopening the cases. And wherever the reopening will be done, there also there are checks and balances. Now, salient features. First is the time limit for issuing notice in normal cases under Section 148, which was earlier 6 years from the end of relevant assessment year, has now been curtailed to 3 years from the end of relevant assessment year. Second is, in case where the AO has information to suggest that income chargeable to tax which has escaped assessment in the case of assessee for the relevant assessment year is rupees 50 lakhs or more. In such a case, reassessment notice can be issued beyond the period of 3 years, but not beyond the period of 10 years from the end of relevant assessment years. Here you see the cap is 50 lakhs rupees or more, and the AO must have the information. AO must have the information even in case of 3 years. For resorting to the provisions of 148 for reopening the case, there should be information with the AO. The information shall specifically include the following. It is in explanation 1 to 148, is information which has been flagged in the case of assessee for the relevant assessment year in accordance with the risk management strategy formulated by the CBDT. And the other one is a final objection raised by the CAG, that is the Comptroller and Auditor General of India, to the effect that assessment in case of assessee for relevant assessment year has not been made in accordance with provisions of the Income Tax Act. Now you see this risk management strategy, Madam can supplement. I was talking to Sri Pawan Vedji, and he told that in the CBDT, various groups are there, specialized work they carry on, and they try to see as to what is the current trend, which are the areas where tax evasion is going on. Like say in case of claiming of exemption in long-term capital gain, or in case of earlier in case of buildings, promoters, capital gains. So likewise, they have got their own strategy. So if any case has been flagged in the case of assessee by the risk management strategy, then also it will be considered as information. Then that was explanation 1. Now the explanation 2 to section 148 says, talks about deemed information. And deemed information shall include cases where a search is initiated under section 132, or books of account, other documents, or any assets are requisitioned under section 132A on or after 1st April 2021 in case of assessee, or a survey is conducted under section 133A in case of assessee on or after 1st April 21, but that survey has to be other than a survey relating to TDS, or other than a survey relating to a function or ceremony or say marriage. So those surveys will not be included for the purpose of deemed information. Then if they are satisfied with prior approval of principal CIT or CIT that any money, bullion, jewelry or other valuable article or thing seized or requisitioned under section 132 or 132A in case of any other person on or after 1st April 2021, it might have been seized in other case, but it belongs to assessee if the AO is satisfied with the prior approval of the higher authorities. Now you see some connected issues I would like to discuss right now. there are cases, there are circumstances when a search or survey has been conducted and in search nothing was seized, nothing incriminating was found. Likewise, in survey also, there was a nil report, nothing wrong was found. So in such cases, just because a search was conducted, just because a survey under section 133A was conducted, that should not automatically mean to be deemed information. So the government may consider that there should be some result, means there should be some tax evasion should have been found in course of these actions. Then the deemed information continues that the AO is satisfied with the prior approval of principal CIT or CIT that books of account, documents, seized or requisitioned in case of any other person on or after 1st April 21 pertains to or information contained therein relate to the SSC. The earlier one was the assets, jewelry or other assets. This is about the books of account, documents which are found in the custody of some other person, but these relate to SSC. In above cases, AO shall be deemed to have information which suggests that the income chargeable to tax has escaped assessment in case of SSC for the 3 assessment years immediately preceding the assessment year relevant to the previous year in which the search is initiated, or books of account, other documents or any assets are requisitioned, or survey is conducted in case of SSC, or money, bullion or jewelry or other available article or thing or books of account or documents are seized or requisitioned in case of any other person, but it belongs to SSC. Now, for the first time, this new section 148A, as Madam also indicated, has been inserted for allowing opportunity to SSC before issue of notice under section 148. So it is also a welcome step. Section 148A provides that before issuance of notice, the AO shall conduct inquiries and provide an opportunity of being heard to SSC. After considering his reply, the AO shall decide by passing an order whether it is a fit case for issuance of notice under section 148 and serve a copy of such order along with such notice on the SSC. The AO shall, before conducting any such inquiries or providing opportunity to the SSC or passing such order, he has to obtain the approval of authorities, means higher authorities specified under section 151. However, the procedure of inquiry, providing opportunity, and passing order before issue of notice under section 148 of the Act shall not be applicable in search or requisition cases. Those cases are excluded.
मैं थोड़ी बोल रहा हूँ अभी.
Then the assessment or the reassessment in respect of search conducted on or after 31st March 2021 shall be conducted under section 147, 148. Means the same procedure will apply as applied to the normal cases in case of search also, as per the new procedure. Provisions of section 153A pertaining to such person and 153C pertaining to other than such person shall not be applicable to search conducted after 31st March 21. Earlier notice under section 153A or 153C was to be issued for 6 assessment years preceding the year in which search was conducted. Now the period of 6 years has been curtailed to 3 assessment years if undisclosed income is less than 50 lakhs or less. However, where the income is sought to be escaped is rupees 50 lakhs or more for relevant assessment year, the period of 3 assessment years shall become 10 assessment years. The procedure is silent as to whether the assessment shall be carried on incriminating materials or it will be a routine assessment. You see, because these teething troubles will be there when a new procedure is inserted in law, then these are to be tested. Now, whether notice under section 148 can be issued as per all provisions on or after 1st April 2021. You see, various notifications have been issued by the government on the basis of the Taxation and Other Laws Relaxation Act, where the central government has been empowered to extend certain deadlines from time to time, and these were extended on 31st March, then 27th April, then again on 25th June. But this 27th April notification number 1703 that specifically extends the time limit for issue of notice under section 148 till 30th June. But the notification dated 25th June 2021, that does not include that the Income Tax Department can issue notices beyond 30th June. Though in some cases, the dates have been extended till 30th September, but that does not apply to issue of notice. The issue of notice after 1st April 21, as per all provisions, has been challenged in Bombay High Court in a writ petition by Amda D1 Private Limited versus DCIT International Tax. And in the first hearing on 3rd June 21, the court stayed the further proceeding in pursuance of the said notice dated 7th April 21 for the assessment year 2013-14 till further hearing. You see, the further hearing was fixed on 1st of July, day before yesterday. What I understand from my friends in Bombay, that hearing could not take place. So we need to watch further development, because that will be a direct case about the applicability of section 148 and whether a notice can be issued on or after 1st April 21 on the basis of all provisions or not. It is to be tested whether the said extended period by CBDT for issue of notice under section 148 up to 30th June shall be valid for resorting to the assessment provisions as per the old regime to reopen the cases for assessment years. You see there, as we know, the time period was 6 years, 13, 14, 14, 15, 15, 16, 16, 17, 17, 18. And thereafter comes within 3 years, so there is no problem. You see, some decisions whether notice under section 148 can be issued as per all provisions on or after 1st April 21. These are not the direct cases, but these are the cases which can be referred to in the court. One is the ITIT Bangalore case, Export Overseas Private Limited versus Deputy CIT. That is a 2017 case. It was held that once a particular provision of section is omitted from the statute, it shall be deemed to be omitted from its inception unless until there is some saving clause or provision that action taken or proceeding initiated under that provision or section would continue and would not be left on account of omission. You see, there are many cases like the Kolhapur Cane Sugar versus Union of India, General Finance Company, and other cases where also it has been examined. Once a provision or section is omitted from law, whether it is omitted since beginning, since its inception. But here in this case, the thing is that the provision is not altogether omitted, but it is substituted. So it is really to be examined as to what will be the real recourse. I am coming to some more cases. Yeah. see, we were talking of Kolhapur Cane Sugar Works Limited. There you see the relevant points were also of the General Colleges Act. And there the Honorable Supreme Court held in paragraph 37, the position is well known that at common law, the normal effect of repealing a statute or deleting a provision is to obliterate it from the statute book as completely as if it had never been passed. So that was first held, and then the most important thing which relates to us is that in a case where a particular provision in a statute is omitted and in its place another provision dealing with the same contingency is introduced. That is our case. Without a saving clause in favor of the pending proceedings, then it can be reasonably inferred that the intention of the legislature is that the pending proceedings shall not continue, but fresh proceedings for the same purpose may be initiated under the new provision. This is the most relevant observation so far the study of new section 147, 148 vis-a-vis the old provision is concerned. Then you see the Karnataka High Court dealt with the situation of omission and not repeal. Then Bangalore Tribunal also followed the Karnataka High Court. And in the General Finance Company's case, Supreme Court 2002 case, it was held that principle underlying section 6 of the General Colleges Act as saving the right of the initiate to initiate proceedings for liabilities incurred during the currency of the act will not apply to omission of a provision. Means if it is omitted, that is a separate aspect. Then you see one very important thing is section 24. Section 24 of the General Colleges Act, which was referred to in Technimont Private Limited's case by the Bombay Tribunal. And there the court was faced with the omission and reenactment of this section. In this scenario, the tribunal referred to section 24 of General Colleges Act, which states that wherein a central act or regulation is after the commencement of this act repealed or reenacted with or without modification, then unless it is otherwise expressly provided by any appointment or order, scheme, rule, form or bylaw made or issued under the repealed act or regulation shall, so far it is not inconsistent with the provisions reenacted, that will the old provision continues in force and be deemed to have been issued under the provisions so reenacted unless until it is superseded by any other order or scheme or law. So here you see the question is whether this is inconsistent with the earlier law. The present case, our study is that yes, it is inconsistent. It is inconsistent and it is different, not on one issue, but on many issues, like the time period for issue of notice, 6 years to 3 years, and then the preconditions, in what circumstances the information will be deemed or the information will be considered, and then the prior approval of the higher authorities, the procedure of giving opportunity to the SSC, making inquiries before issue of notice. So all these things are there. And there is also, you see, the case of fiber boards, that is again Supreme Court. So there are many cases about the effect of the amendment and whether this section 147 and 148, whether this is a procedural amendment or substantial amendment. So you see, basically, you see, in one way, we may consider that this is a procedural amendment. And it has been said in many cases by the courts that the effect of a procedural amendment is retrospective, means it is from back date. So in these circumstances, actually the first case which is being examined is by Bombay High Court, and various dimensions of the issues which may be raised before the Honorable Court will be examined by the High Court, and we have to watch. There are certain other issues relating to reassessment procedure. I had requested Sri Pawan Veji also to throw light on that, and time permitting, after Pawan Veji speaks on his subject, then we will consider it more. There are some issues which have been sent by the President, Narendra Goyalji. Those also we will try to discuss as to when a person gets the notice on or after 1st April 21, then how he should deal with that, whether he should respond, whether he should file the return, or what action he should take. Because there are many ifs and buts under the Income Tax Act. Because you see, interestingly, a section is there that if you cooperate with the Income Tax Department, then you cannot appeal against that order. So it is interesting. If you cooperate, then your hands are cut. So these sections are, you see, in my view as a student of law, these are not consistent with law. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jain sir, for explaining the provision in a very simple words. And thank you for keeping people under the curiosity of hearing on how to deal with the new notices. So I now hand over the proceedings to our coordinator, Sri R.D. Kakadaji, who will welcome and introduce Pawan Vedji and take his session forward. R.D. Kakadaji, please. R.D. Kakadaji is also past president.
Thank you, Goyalji. A very good evening to all of you. Thank you, Professor Narayan Jain ji, for your nice, wonderful, lucid and educative deliberation. Your PPT on the subject is also a very unique one and an educative one, and I hope that all the participants will be benefited immense. It is a proud privilege for me to address all of you as a coordinator of today's webinar. Friends, today's subject is an all-weather subject, and with the kind presence, hello, I'm audible? Hello? Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible. You are audible, sir.
Yeah. With the kind presence of chief guest, Seema Khurana Patra ji, we are thrilled today, and she is also inspiration to all of us. And friends, today going to become historic day for DTPA by organizing webinar on 148A. DTPA also marked towards a new challenges, and in years to come, the country find this organization just like the BCA, Bombay Chartered Accountants. It's not impossible, brothers. For doing this, there is nothing you have to do. As like this today's subject matter, I like to say 2 lines. If you sincerely go forward, it will immense benefit to all of you. अपने पंखों को खोल गरुड़, अपने पंखों को खोल गरुड़, अब उड़ने का अंदाज बदल. There are no doubt, Jain ji and our chief guest told us that there are seesaw changes. Undoubtedly, on 30th August, this government taken a bold step, and with that master stroke of the government, the faceless assessment introduced. After now, we have seen this subject, all-weather subject, in 1992 regime, 1961, and now there is lot of challenges in this 148A, and we hope with the deliberation of Genji and our other co-speaker, and with the presence of our chief guest, we are able to do justice on this subject. And our next speaker, Next speaker is Sri Vedji. Our speaker is a dynamic person. He did MCom in 1974, getting first rank. Also did his MA Economics and LLB honors in the year 1980. He is fellow member of Institute of Company Secretaries of India, as also a fellow member of Institute of Cost and Management Accountants of India. Mr. Ved worked as Deputy Collector in MP, Company Secretary, CFO, and Head of the Law in MP Industrial Development Corporation. He performed as Class 1 officer in Income Tax Department from December 1981 to August 2014, and worked in various capacity as ACIT, Joint CIT, and CIT. Further, he also worked for about 5 years as Senior DR before ITAT and ITSC. Appeared in more than 3,500 appeals and have got about 30 landmark decisions which have been reported in various tax journals. After retiring as CIT, presently, Mr. Ved is practicing as an advocate at Indore with pan-India clients, and many of us know him very well. And I hope that with the deliberation of the Mr. Vedji, who has very vast experience and practical experience, and now he is performing in the other side. So he will give us the new tips for this subject. Thank you. Vedji. Pawanji.
Thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to express myself before this August gathering of top lawyers of the country. I have been given subject of reopening reassessment amendments and also how abuse of powers by departmental officers and how to manage that abuse of powers. I'm not telling how to combat, but how to manage that we can reduce the abuse of power. First thing, regarding change in law regarding reassessment. We all know that change is law of nature. Change is law of nature. But in income tax, change is nature of law. Every time you will get change, by the time a particular procedure is set, मैं कहूं कि गाड़ी पटरी पे आई कि उसको डिरेल कर दिया जाता है, उसको पटरी पे नहीं रहने दिया जाता, फिर नई पटरी चालू कीजिए. This has exactly happened in search assessment and assessment relating to reopening. My learned colleague has already explained the salient provisions of new amendments regarding reopening. I will take up some issues arising out of those provisions. First is, there is an apprehension that now the reopening can be for 10 years. Earlier it was for 6 years. But though it was not necessary to put it in the law itself, but it has been put in the law and clarified, if something which has already been time barred regarding reopening is on 1st April 21, then that cannot be reopened even if 10 years are available. So there is no fear that 12, 13, 11, 12, 10, 11, which were already time barred, there cannot be any reopening for those years. So for those years, you can rest assured. Even otherwise, there were 6 Supreme Court decisions that law of limitation can be extended only before limitation expires, not after the limitation expires. So if 6 years limitation has expired on 31/3/21, then expired period law limitation cannot be extended. So you should be rest assured. Now, one thing regarding reopening for 10 years. Law has been amended to provide for reopening for 10 years, but rule provides, Rule 6F provides regarding maintenance of records, maintenance of books of accounts. That provides only for 6 years, not for 10 years. So you are not required to maintain books of accounts. You are not required to preserve books of accounts for a period earlier than 6 years. And department can reopen for 10 years. Now if department reopens a clever assessee can always take a plea that I am not required to maintain books. How can I prove it? I cannot create my defense now because I have not preserved the books of accounts. And courts have already taken a view. Say Madras High Court decision under Evidence Act that old evidences should not be strictly enforced because one is not supposed to keep track of those evidences in writing and also in memory. So this being the case, as on today, reopening for 10 years is only theoretical. At least for 3 years they cannot reopen because 12, 13, 13, 14 were 12, 13, 11, 12, 10, 11 were already time barred before the new law had come. So that apprehension you should not carry, that reopening can be done for 10 years. And still, even if today one is having records, law does not compel him to preserve those records. Then second thing regarding this reopening, the law has come recently. It is only within the courtroom, it is only within the bar rooms or in seminars that we are discussing. There is no court decision. We are to rely on earlier decisions on similar issues. The position of law even today is old section has been substituted. Please listen carefully. Old section has been substituted. In substitution of section, there are 2 points. Number 1, omission of earlier provision and insertion of new provision. So if earlier provision is omitted, then my learned friend, Mr. Narayan Jain, has already explained, omitted means it never existed on statute book. If it never existed on statute book, then what will happen to issue notice already issued? Never existed. After 1st April, it never existed. What will be the status of notices issued after 1st April, number 1? And number 2, what will be the status of notices issued before 31st March? Whether such can continue? I'm going into a debate on what my learned friend has said, but I have my own views regarding that. Decision of Supreme Court was considered in the case of General Finance 257 ITR 338. In that case, there was prosecution launched under section 276 DD, and after launching a prosecution, that section was omitted. And instead, penalty provision was introduced in the act. Now, what is the effect of omission of those provisions? Supreme Court said in the case of General Finance that if provision has been omitted, prosecution cannot continue. If prosecution has been omitted, provision has been omitted, prosecution cannot continue. Can we apply that ratio to these provisions which have been recently introduced? In my opinion, it cannot be applied because it was a case of criminal prosecution. It was a case of criminal prosecution, and there is settled law in criminal prosecution that punishment should be as per the provisions either on the date of commission of offense or on the date of conviction of offense, whichever is lower, whichever is beneficial to accused. Now, on the date of commission of offense, yes, there was punishment prescribed under the act and prosecution was launched. But on the date of conviction, since section has been omitted, there cannot be any punishment. So if there cannot be any punishment, we have to exonerate the accused, and the situation is entirely different different from the situation under reopening provisions. Number 1, this is point. So in my opinion, that decision will not apply, and on the basis of that decision, Honorable Bangalore ITAT has given decision in the case of tax court that omitted provision means provision never existed. True, it never existed, but in the case of tax court also, there is one more concept. Concept of omission of provision. Provisions are of 2 types. First is substantive provision and second is procedural provision. Now, substantive provision provides for charge of tax. If charge of tax does not remain in the statute book, you cannot charge the assessee. But procedural provision has nothing to do with charge of tax. And 147 is a procedural provision. Procedural provision means it is in the chapter procedure for assessment. It prescribes manner in which assessment is to be done. It does not provide how tax will be charged. The law of procedural provision is different. When it is amended, when it is omitted, when new section is introduced, means on the date of amendment, the procedure will be as per new provision. After the date of amendment, procedure will be as per new provision. Before the date of amendment, procedure will be as per old provision. So in my opinion, after 1st April, it will be as per new provision, and before 1st April, it should be as per old provision. And the decision of Honorable Bangalore ITT or Honorable Supreme Court or some other decisions which have been considered, they are all on provisions relating to charge of tax. They are not relating to procedure of the tax. So in my opinion, it is valid that these provisions can continue after 1st April. New provision will continue after 1st April. Position of law is very clear and old provision cannot continue. Now one question was raised. The question was whether department can follow old provisions after 31st March when provision itself ceased to exist on the statute book. The contention of the department will be that department has been given power to extend the timeline for issuing notice under section 148. The power has been given by Parliament by Act, and that under that power extension has been given, and therefore issuing notice after this date will be valid. This will be the contention of the department. Let us examine it. In my view, yes, Parliament had given power to the department to extend the date because of this corona pandemic, but Parliament had, after giving that power, subsequently amended the section. So when Parliament has amended a section, Parliament is supposed to know what the earlier status was, what the earlier provision was. Here Parliament has amended section after that power was given, means Parliament is well aware that power was given. Still we are introducing new provision with effect from 1st April. This being the case, after 1st April, new provisions should apply and not old provision. This is number one argument. After 1st April, new provisions should apply because Parliament is well aware that we had given power earlier to extend the time of issue of notice under 148, but still Parliament has chosen to delete the section, to omit the section. Number two, the provision of extension of time limit survives only if section survives. If section does not survive, how can a provision of extension issued thereunder can survive? So on this argument also, there cannot be extension after 31st March. Then third argument, these are all my arguments. Nothing has been tested in the court. And I think these are my own thinking, my own creation. Third argument, we are all aware that department wanted to reduce litigation in court. And therefore, department formulated a monetary policy that beyond a certain limit, below a certain limit, appeals will not be filed by the department. When this provision came, when this notification came, then suppose notification has come, suppose say on 1st January 20. So after 1st January 20, appeals will not be filed before tribunal where tax effect is less than 50 lakhs. Suppose this is the position. What will happen when tax effect is less than 50 lakhs and appeal has already been filed? Will it be fair that appeals of less than 50 lakhs filed earlier were justified on the ground of monetary effect and filed later are not justified on the same ground? It cannot be. Therefore, courts took a view that this circular of not filing appeal after a particular date shall automatically apply to appeals already filed. Taking a ratio of that circular, taking a ratio of that decision, I'm not rightly seized with the decision, but taking the ratio of that decision, now there is a policy of the legislature, not of the government, policy of the legislature, that we will not reopen cases where income escaped is below rupees 50 lakhs and time of more than 3 years have already passed. If this is the policy of the legislature, the objective of such policy is to reduce litigation of reopening. Why this policy should not have the applicability of the same ratio of policy relating to monetary limits of filing appeals? So this will certainly justify that notices issued earlier prior to 31st March and having income escaping assessment of below rupees 50 lakhs, they cannot continue because they do not fall in the policy of the government formulated afterwards. So in my opinion, it is worth fighting, and fighting at the level of association level. All India Federation of Tax Practitioners, they should meet the government and say, let the position be clear so that we can avoid unnecessary litigation. Everybody, there is no point in keeping the sword hanging before assessees and creating an atmosphere of our country is highly litigating country. I think we will succeed, and department can, in suitable cases where the amount exceeding is rupees 50 lakhs, either issue a fresh notice or take any other action. But smaller than 50 lakhs, tax effect is also not much. The policy of the government is regarding which has been introduced in the act itself, as per risk management strategy. Below 50 lakhs, risk is much less for the department. In few cases, if amount is less than 50 lakhs, forget it. Let us concentrate on higher important high stake cases. So according to that policy also, the cases below rupees 50 lakhs cannot continue after this 1st April 2021. So this is my personal views, but in any case, law has not yet developed. Then second point is, if notice under 148 comes, then if notice under 148 comes, then earlier there was a remedy of writ, whether that remedy will be available. I would like to convey to you in our country, taking statistics of filing writ petition in all high courts of the country, it was found that around 25 to 30% writ petitions were only by taxpayers of income tax, only under section 148. And even 148 writ petitions are not disposed. I am aware, I am handling some cases in Bombay High Court. I am aware that they are not disposed even for 8 years. Even for 8 years, your writ petition, they will take a prima facie view whether to give stay or not, and then keep it pending for regular hearing, which will come after 8 years. So now court is overburdened with writ petitions, and with these provisions, the burden on court will certainly reduce substantially. Then in these new provisions, it has been provided that reopening will be automatic in search cases and survey cases. This is very surprising. Why it should be automatic when nothing is found in course of search? Does it not amount to rewarding department for unsuccessful search? Does it not amount to giving an opportunity to the department to reopen in different way? ऐसे कान पकड़ के reopen कर ले, आप reopen नहीं कर सकते तो search कर लीजिए. Does it amount to like that? Certainly it cannot be intention of the legislature. Certainly it is not justified also. It does not fit in any principle of jurisprudence. Basic principle of jurisprudence is that no authority, no judicial authority or quasi-judicial authority can decide on its own decision which has been taken earlier, can review that decision. This is basic principle. Now ITO cannot reopen its case without any material. There has to be some material. The matter of change of opinion was examined in the case of Kelvinator. And Honorable Supreme Court finally held that change of opinion is not permissible. Now, if nothing is found in search and you are issuing notice, does it not amount to change of opinion? Certainly, it is change of opinion. Opinion, and the basis for change of opinion is there was a search, but there is no other basis. Can it be a good logical basis? If you examine the decision of Honorable Supreme Court in the case of Kelvinator, we go deep, we find that the issue was also argued in Honorable Delhi High Court, 256 ITR 1. And in 256 ITR 1, it was argued by learned advocate Mr. Devi Pal that to permit reopening without any tangible material, to permit reopening on the basis of change of opinion will amount to unconstitutionality. It is not constitutional. And this argument was accepted by Honorable Delhi High Court. That argument still survives. And in my humble opinion, even under search, even after search, there has to be incriminating material for reopening, otherwise it cannot be reopened. It does not fit in any principle of justice. If there is no material and you are reopening, you took maximum highest action of going to attack his privacy to make search, and still you could not collect evidence, and still you want to reopen. This is just a joke. Nothing found and still you are reopening. This very issue had come up under section 153A and 153C, that if there is a search, then assessment for 6 years will be reopened. Then under 153C, Honorable Supreme Court has already settled in the case of Singer Technical Institute, that reopening cannot be made for any year for which there is no seized material. There has to be some incriminating material. Material matlab incriminating material. Now, if there is no incriminating material under 153C, law has already been settled, then the ratio will apply to these new provisions also. Further, under 153A also, it was held by Honorable Delhi High Court in the case of Mita Gadgatia that if there is no incriminating material, there cannot be any 153A on that. Kerala and Karnataka High Court have, however, taken a different view, but in my opinion, as per my arguments given earlier, Kerala High Court and Honorable Karnataka High Court view requires reconsideration, and Mita Gadgatia view is definitely a better appealing view. So even otherwise, there cannot be any reopening. Further, reopening is to be made only on 2 points: when there is risk assessment strategy and when there is objection of CAG finally accepted. Now, how can you make distinction between a search assessee and non-search assessee? In search assessee, you can reopen only on 2 points, and in non-search assessee, you can reopen on any point. In search assessment, you can reopen on any point. How can it be? The basis for discrimination is not intelligent basis. Therefore, constitutionally also it will not be valid. Then, therefore, in my opinion, even in search cases, reopening will not be automatic. It will not be per se because there is a search we are reopening. It will not stand test of judicial scrutiny. Then the issue is that reopening will be on the basis of risk assessment strategy and the views of CAG finally accepted. Now I would like to tell one thing: views of CAG finally accepted. Now, can CAG express view on interpretation of law? Can CAG express view on interpretation of law? Certainly not. CAG is no authority. Authority is court. CAG is not. Therefore, if CAG takes a view regarding interpretation of law, not regarding any other point, if CAG finds out some facts, that is another thing. But if CAG expresses view regarding interpretation of law, then that cannot be treated as information, that cannot be a basis of reopening, and the issue was already settled by Honorable Supreme Court long ago when I had joined the department, that is in 119 ITR 996 India Eastern Newspaper Society. So even in cases where there is CAG objection, it is not automatic that it can be reopened anytime. And further, even if there is CAG objection, the principle of change of opinion, which I told, change of opinion is not permissible under Constitution, not under income tax law. Under Constitution, it is not permissible. So even if CAG information results in change of opinion, the reopening will still be invalid. So there is not much tension. To sum up, finally, I will tell reopening for that purpose, there should be information in possession of AO. Now, what is the scope of the word information? Under old law, since the decision of 102 ITR 285 Kalyanji Mauji, Supreme Court has said that the word information is very, very wide word. Any information which results in forming an opinion of escaping income, then that information is sufficient to reopen. In the case of Kalyanji Mauji, the AO found some information on similar assessment for subsequent year. And on the basis of that, earlier year was reopened, and Honorable Supreme Court held, yes, reopening is invalid because information is valid. The point is, what is the scope of the word information under this amended provision? So under this amended provision, it has been clarified in section 148A that information which results in escapement of assessment of income, which results in escapement of assessment of income. So information matlab should have some definite connection with escapement of assessment of income, but that is further restricted. Further restricted how? Escapement of income and information scope has been defined as per risk management strategy and as per CAG objection. And the word is means. Information means, not includes. It is not inclusive definition. It is exhaustive definition. So now scope is limited only to two things: risk management strategy and CAG views. Now CAG views, I have already explained my views. But what is risk management strategy, risk assessment strategy? So majority of us do not know what is risk assessment. Risk assessment is a study by a particular department of income tax, Department Directorate of Risk Assessment, which studies a particular view on any particular point. How much loss or gain will result in revenue because of taking a particular view on this point. Say, for example, employees' contribution if not paid in time, then it is disallowable. The risk assessment department will examine if we accept the view of High Court in favor of assessee, how much loss of revenue will be there. Or we say another situation, suppose we increase limit of section 80C from rupees 1,50,000 to 2 lakh, how much will be the loss of revenue? So these are the risk assessment points, and on the basis of those risk assessment points, a policy will be decided that such cases should be reopened and such cases should not be reopened. Now the point is that risk assessment decision will be taken by CBDT, not by the AO. And CBDT is given power under section 119. CBDT is given power under rule 297, 295 rule making power. Where is the power to CBDT to give guideline in case of risk assessment? Right now, I find there is no such power. So how will department exercise unless there is some new mechanism is brought into the statute book or in the legal procedure to ensure that risk management provisions can be invoked by the assessing officer, and further the decision of reopening is always of the assessing officer. It cannot be by the CBDT by way of instruction. So that may be a legal lacuna which may require correction later on. Then the issue is there is one provision made in the new law that reopen can be made And once a case is reopened, then the assessing officer can assess any income which subsequently comes to his notice. He can assess any income which subsequently comes to his notice. Now see the wordings, which subsequently comes to his notice, matlab which he does not gropes, which he does not collects. Comes means which comes by the way. He is not to collect the information for any other matter on which income has escaped assessment. If by the way it comes to his notice, then he can assess that income. Now suppose reopening has been made on the point of unexplained case credit, and AO has made inquiry regarding certain expenditure. And if you have given reply on those expenditure, then he can disallow part of those expenditure or full those expenditure because it has come to his notice. So what is your duty? Your duty is to tell him, yes, Mr. AO, you have reopened only on the point of case credit. You cannot make any other inquiry. If you reply, you will be caught. If you don't reply, you are safe. So please ensure while giving reply to assessing officer, you don't pass on any information which implicate you again and which gives him power to assess that income. Actually, the issue was examined by Honorable Punjab and Haryana High Court in the case of Vipin Khanna, 255 ITR 220. When new scheme under amendment, after amendments in 1989, new scheme of assessment had come and provisions of section 143(1) were introduced. Then it was held by Honorable High Court that whole assessment is not open. Even otherwise, you read section 143(2). When can AO issue notice under 143(2)? The language of section 143(2) is where the assessing officer finds it necessary or expedient to ensure that assessee has not understated his income. Now, whether power of AO under section 143(2) is absolute, when there is no basis to hold that assessee has understated his income, whether AO can issue notice under 143(2). But we have never challenged, and we will not challenge again 147 if he makes huge inquiries, roving inquiries. So we have to be careful he does not make any such roving inquiries. We limit our reply to the material on the point on which it has been reopened. Now next point comes when you can challenge the action of AO of reopening by way of writ if you are not satisfied. Law of writ is well settled. Whenever there is alternative remedy, writ cannot lie. So AO is first to make inquiry. You have to reply. You cannot challenge at that level. You have to reply. After inquiry, he passes, he gives you an opportunity, and order is passed. Now at that stage, you can challenge it. This is my view. Because passing of that order, at that stage, you don't have any alternative remedy. So in that situation, writ petition will lie and you can go in for writ at that point of time. But sometimes going in writ may not be viable because when assessment is made, when you go in writ, then suppose you fail in writ before High Court, then only remedy will be Supreme Court. No authority below High Court will have any courage to decide in your favor, CIT appeal or IT appeal. So writ, the remedy of writ should be availed only when you are very, very sure that you will win in writ. Otherwise, you should not venture going into writ. So this is an important point to keep in mind regarding availing remedy by way of writ. And these provisions have come that reopening will be after principal CCIT decides validity of reopening. Matlab principal CCIT has considered that yes, there is every justification that income has escaped assessment and it should be taxed. Now, this being the position, which CIT appeal will have courage to take a view against principal CCIT? Which CCIT appeal will have courage? Possibly no. This is departmental hierarchy में they will always take care कि भाई मेरा boss नाराज हो जाएगा कि मैंने principal CCIT को गलत कर दिया. He will take revenge. He may be member board someday. In earlier olden days, I am talking of long ago, before 1975, appellate authorities in income tax department used to be independent because they used to directly report to the board. And now the appellate authorities are not reporting to the board. They are reporting to principal CCIT. The situation is worse in investigation wing. In investigation wing, Principal Director General of Income Tax authorizes search. Now an officer under him only makes assessment. So the duty of the officer is to ensure that the decision of my boss of conducting search should be successful. Therefore, what he will do, he will tax you heavily. Then appeal will go to CIT appeal. Now that CIT appeal, central circle, is not centralized. It is not faceless also. It is just online. That CIT appeal is also working under that very principal CCIT, DGIT, principal DGIT. Now he will not have any courage to take a view that my principal CCIT has wrongly searched or something like that. And it is difficult for him to allow the appeal. Therefore, slightly I am digressing from the subject, but we should All India Federation of Tax Practitioners should impress upon the government that independence of CIT appeals should be maintained and all CIT appeals should be compelled to report only to the board and not to local officers. Then they can work fearlessly. So this is all about my points relating to new law of reopening. If I don't know what is the provision, what is the arrangement made for question answer, but my topic is regarding this one new provision of reopening. My topic is complete. If there is any question answer and it is to be continued, we can continue, or I can shift to new subject. Organizers, please tell me how I should go.
Sir, the question answers will be taken at last, Narayan sir, after your...
One subject is over.
Yes, sir.
Questions at the end, please. Questions at the end.
Let sir kindly go to the next subject.
Okay, let us go to next subject. Next subject is abuse of power by tax authorities and what we can do against such abuse of power.
पीपीटी चला दें सर, पीपीटी आपका
अभी चला लेंगे. I will tell appropriate moment. Okay. But I will just like to know, I have completed my first subject. If any of you feels that should I change any point, should I change my manner of expressing the things, because in the first point I had not prepared any PPT. It was just an extempo.
No sir, it was excellent. So, it was excellent, sir.
So I will tell, if you want me to change something, you please convey me right now so that I can change accordingly. Regarding this abuse of power, I will tell that this is a very serious subject. Listen carefully. We are all chartered accountants. We are advocates. We are very highly educated. We have done huge efforts in passing the examination and setting up the practice. And we always face abuse of power and we feel helpless. So there should be some remedy against abuse of power and how we can protect ourselves from such abuse of power. This is the subject now. There is a dream of Honorable Prime Minister that income tax department should be corruption free. The stress is mainly on income tax because income tax is most important department where which is fighting black money, corruption among all people, politicians or journalists or industrialists or bureaucrats or even businessmen. So income tax department becomes corruption free and acts properly, then it can set right all the departments. Therefore, there is a dream of Honorable Prime Minister. First time video faceless assessment has been introduced only in income tax, not in any other department. So we can understand what is the dream of Honorable Finance Minister and Honorable Prime Minister. Now it is our duty to make the dream successful. So for that, we are to contest properly that there is no abuse of power by tax authorities. And it is happening. And I surprise how, I should not use such bad words, but how such officers are with 20 years experience, that they write in order that the assessee has relied on decision of Honorable Supreme Court. The decision was rendered in 2014 and the assessment is for 10-11. So this decision cannot be applied. This is the wisdom of such senior officers in the department. Then another situation happened with me only. I said, I want to see this document, please get it from AO and give me. The CIT appeal writes in his order, I have called that document from assessing officer. I have seen this document is proper. There is no need to confront the assessee. Addition is confirmed. What are these things? I can give live example. This is seminar, but I can tell the name of the officers who have been promoted as principal commissioner. This is the thing. This is happening. Where is the law in that? Where is the sanctity of law? If this be the case, what is your remedy? You go in appeal, you धक्का खाइए appeal में, 2-4 hearing होगी, stay लेंगे और उसके बाद जा रहा होगा तो set aside कर देंगे. What you have got? Nothing. What the assessing officer or CIT appeal has lost? Nothing. That situation is continuing. That has to be fought. Such situation cannot continue. And we have very adequate remedies. The only thing is, All India Federation of Tax Practitioners is to take a proactive role to fight such thing, should make a secretariat to get information of such officer and take action against those officers personally, because department is not taking any action on those officers. CIT appeal, listens appeal, he is to pass order within 15 days. He does not pass order within 15 days. After 6 months, another notice comes. Then again, some feeler is sent. Do you want to cooperate? Then if you say no, then again it is closed. Then after 6 months, a fresh notice will come. And this is happening. I can give example. I have filed complaints in vigilance also. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. If you want to prevent abuse of power, then we have to usurp power of action against the officer from CBDT to our association. And we can do it. This my lecture, I am explaining how we can do it. But one thing, on one side, if you are trying to prevent abuse of power, we should also ensure that taxes are properly paid by our clients. We should not indulge in such practices, avoid the tax and go and do anything. And now also, under change the scenario, it is never advisable to avoid or evade income tax. Never advisable, because department has got a very, very powerful data bank and it's got substantial information. It can catch you anywhere. So never advise avoiding income tax and never advise evading income tax. Please pay it timely and regularly, properly, so that we don't have to face such situation. Then now chartered accountants have also been held accountable for tax evasion. They can also be made a party along with the assessee. So in such a scenario, we should be more careful. Not because we have been, but as our duty. Now please, you can start PPT. PPT, I am unable to see.
Allow a minute, sir. I'm doing it.
Eh?
Sir, he is sharing in a moment.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sumit, go to the first slide, please.
Sir, this is the first slide.
Okay. No, this is the title. I think you can go to the next slide. Vesar, can you see the PPT on your screen? Sumit, please check. He has lost contact or
उनका
Sir, I think
ये
he
करो,
will have to
unmute करो,
rejoin.
unmute.
He's rejoining again.
rejoining. Okay.
Sir, if we can check with him once.
Jen sir, you have his number. Can you call him
Sir,
and
sir,
check?
he has joined.
He has joined. Okay. Make him host.
Wait, sir, you can. You are there, sir. ऑडियो कनेक्ट नहीं हुआ है शायद आपका, आपको ऑडियो पे क्लिक करना पड़ेगा.
Yes, Ved sir, we can see you. Sumit, please put the PPT on the screen.
Some connectivity, मतलब audio issues from Ved sir side. So okay, ठीक है. It will take 1 minute to fix probably.
Okay.
In the meantime, if you want, you can take a question if that's okay with you.
The questions, I think after the deliberation is over, it's better to take.
गोयल जी क्वेश्चन आंसर चालू कर दीजिए, रायन जी आंसर देंगे, तब तक देख लेंगे.
Jain sir, you are there?
Answer is also not there.
Jain sir, will you take over because he is having problem in connecting? So
Sir
long
has
he is
joined.
able
Sir
to
has joined.
connect.
Sir has joined.
Okay, okay.
Yes, should I start?
Yes, sir.
Please give me
Please.
that PPT.
Sumit, please place that PPT.
Remedies against abuse of power by income tax authorities. First, I will quote. Give me power to change PPT. Next, if you are neutral in situations of injustice, hello, am I
Yes, sir.
audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir,
Yes,
you
sir.
are audible. You please keep saying he will change the slide according to your instruction.
If you are neutral in situation, this is the message I am conveying to you all. You are to fight injustice. Next PPT, please. Next. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. We are changing the slide, sir.
What you have missed in between?
Please go to the previous slide.
Discretion meaning. Slide. All statutory authorities have been vested with discretion in order to carry out the functions assigned them under the Act. This discretion has to be exercised reasonably and for the purpose for which and capriciously and must be backed by cogent reasons based on. Next slide. Please, next slide.
Is there, sir, abuse of power?
Yes. A wrongful exercise of discretionary power can be categorized as an abuse of power by the authority. This abuse of power can broadly be classified in following types. Exercising the jurisdiction where there is no jurisdiction. This is first. Second, refusing to exercise the jurisdiction in the place and manner where it ought to have been exercised. For example, this is second position. I am telling CIT appeal has been given power to give stay of demand. And possibly none of the CIT appeal in the country is exercising that power. They are not giving any stay of demand. Then third, violation of the principle of natural justice. This is very relevant in today's time in faceless assessment. You are not given proper opportunity and assessment is made. Or even appeal is decided where there is no time barring. Then exercise of the power in a wrongful manner. Broadly speaking, in cases A, B, and C above, apart from remedies of regular appeal, in case D above, apart from challenging the merits of the decision made by the authority in regular appeal, assessee can seek to make by personal vendetta or malice. I would like to convey, I will like to impress upon you,
I believe sir is witnessing some network issues. So if we can take one or two questions in the meantime, can we ask sir to reconnect if that's possible, sir?
Jain sir, can you talk to him? Jain sir, please unmute.
बात करता हूँ.
हाँ sir.
it is, however, to be borne in mind that these complaints by themselves will not be redressal for the wrongful order made by the officer. Redressal will always be, the order being a judicial, quasi-judicial order will have to be set aside in appropriate proceedings, which will have to be separately initiated by the assessee in appropriate appellate fora. For example, high-pitch assessment, you want to make a complaint of assessing officer, you make complaint, but you will have to fight appeal. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Instances of abuse of power at the level of assessment and appeal. Most often than not, we find that assessing officers do not exercise the discretion vested in them in the rational and objective manner by taking a view which a reasonable person would take in the circumstances. This can result in high-pitched assessments because the assessing officer has wrongfully or willfully ignored binding decision instruction circulars cited before him. Willfully and wrongfully ignored binding decision, failed to give the benefit of decision circulars in the knowledge, particularly those in favor of the assessee which are accessible to the facts of the case. Fail to consider the replies and arguments submitted by the assessee, fail to record the inquiry results which are in favor of the assessee, distinguish decision of higher courts on frivolous and untenable grounds, place the onus of proof on the assessee when in fact onus lies on the department, denied proper opportunity of hearing to the assessee and fail to confirm the assessee with the material gathered behind the back, thereby violating the principles of natural justice. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, organizer. It is settled law that refusing to exercise power where it ought to be exercised is also an abuse of power. Some examples of culpable omissions are: number one, not deciding stay petitions, which we find regularly. Stay petitions are filed and they are kept pending. Nobody generally decides unless you go and request them to please decide it. Then making recovery of whole or part of demand without deciding stay petition by assessing officer or by CIT appeal or by PCIT. Then levying penalty even before appeal decisions because facts become final only after appeal. Then withholding refund without any reason. Now it is not very significant because refunds are timely issued. Then not giving appeal effect in time and withholding refund. Not releasing seized material in time. Retaining seized materials assets not used in assessment. Prohibiting the assessee to give him unnecessary demands by threatening to issue notice under 147 or attachment of bank accounts or threatening with prosecution. Next slide. Instances of abuse of power by search team. Forcible disclosure. Continuing search till midnight. Compelling search party to create incriminating evidence. Threatening the searched party and misleading the party by suggesting disclosure to save penalty and reduce rate of taxation. Collecting tax and penalty then and there or by post-dated checks. Next slide. Next slide, please. Some tips and remedies for assessees under the search. Now this is most important. Please listen carefully because these are the situations where what is the remedy to you when such abuse of power is made? The authorized officer in search has the power to examine a person on oath and record his statement. But they often abuse this power to extract and record statement of undisclosed income. This forcible disclosure has been frowned upon by the courts and lawmakers alike. The finance minister had made a statement in parliament that no forced surrender will be obtained at the time of search or survey. The CBDT has issued circular in March 10, 2003, whereby it has been clarified that no confessional statement for surrender of additional income will be forcibly obtained at the time of search and survey. The assessee can refuse to make a disclosure citing the aforesaid circular. Such forcible disclosure are wide ab initio. In case the disclosure has been made under duress, the assessee can promptly retract it after the search, particularly when there is no corresponding evidence to match the disclosure. The assessee should also refuse to pay tax on disclosed amount, thus furthering his stand that the disclosure was obtained under duress. However, if there is corresponding evidence of undisclosed income, then disclosure could be tricky to retract. Since the assessee has a right to revise his return income, he also has a right to retract his disclosure. This is very, very important argument. Assessee has a right to revise return. Under 139.4, 139.5, we can revise a return. If a return which is properly filed after verification, after consulting chartered accountant, after seeing books of accounts, if it can be revised, disclosure made before the search can always be revised. Then it is also to be noted that authorized officer in a survey under 133A have no power to extract a disclosure, and any such disclosure extracted will be without the authority of law and therefore will have no evidentiary value. Next slide. Next slide. The assessee should firmly and calmly handle the pressure during the search proceedings, keeping in mind his legal rights, and should actively see that no false evidence or material are planted or created by the search team. The assessee can approach the Human Rights Commission for violation of his right if need be. In the case of Rajendra Singh versus Income Tax Officer, Honorable Bihar Human Rights Commission observed that taking a statement in midnight is a violation of human rights. Honorable Commission awarded compensation to the assessee. This is very important decision. Please keep it in mind. Next, collecting post-dated check for taxes and penalties is a practice which has been deprecated by Honorable High Court of Delhi in DG Pro Import and Export Private Limited versus Union of India, 82 taxman.com 206. They cannot collect The point I want to stress upon is that advance tax payment is discretionary. It is not compulsory. Department cannot issue notice for payment of advance tax even if you have good income earned and already on record. Then next, in cases of high-pitched assessment, always file stay application before CIT appeal for stay of demand. Under the inherent powers that are vested in them to give interim relief during the pendency of appeal, I would like to convey at this point that CIT appeals never decide stay of demand. You just file it and sit. Whenever AO presses for demand, you say my stay petition is pending. And if he attaches bank account without waiting for stay order from CIT appeal, it is a clear case of abuse of power and AO will be personally liable for compensation and he may also be liable criminally and he may be sentenced, conviction under 166 Indian Penal Code. The AO can be then requested to refrain from recovery proceedings till the stay petition is decided by CIT appeal. If the stay petition is not decided or decided adversely, then the order can be challenged in higher fora. This is a better option than requesting the AO to stay the recovery, who will almost never do it because of pressure on him for recovery of demand. KEC International Limited is a good decision. Please have it in your book. This decision is very good on stay. In your compilation, you have this decision. In cases of withholding of refunds or refusing to defreeze the bank accounts, it is always a good idea to send a notice to the assessing officer apprising him of the financial difficulty faced by the assessee, along with a rough estimate of financial loss caused to the assessee due to such inaction. This notice letter intimation can later serve as a base to pitch a claim for compensation for wrongful withholding in writ petition or proceedings before appropriate courts. In this way, the assessee can claim more than 9% interest, which is given in case of delayed appeal effect refunds. I have tried it once and AO immediately defreeze the account. I said you will be liable for all losses. Next, please. Next slide.
It's already done, sir.
Yes, it is taking time.
Next slide, please.
So the PPT sent to us, yes.
Some tips and remedies for assessee facing high-pitch assessment and recoveries. Assessee should always give a written submission with respect to the replies given by them before thereby bringing on record all the relevant material before the assessing officer. The officer can be and should be apprised of the fact that the issue in hand is covered by decision of any higher forum and he is bound by the rule of precedence and judicial discipline to follow them. The issue can be tackled in appeal or revision or rectification if need so arises. If there is patent violation of natural justice, then writ jurisdiction of the High Court can be invoked. You will find in these faceless assessments, this writ jurisdiction is being invoked regularly. In so many cases, it has been invoked. And courts are generally sending back to the assessing officer to decide in accordance with law. I would like to dwell upon this point. I will explain. The assessing officer is bound to give you full opportunity. If he does not give opportunity of natural justice, then you can go to High Court. The opportunity of natural justice has not been given, and this is sufficient basis to file a writ. In the writ, generally High Courts send the case back to assessing officer to decide afresh. Now, some issues arises in this situation. First is the mistake or rather mischief was committed by the assessing officer by not giving opportunity when law clearly mandates on the assessing officer to give such opportunity. If the AO has not chosen to avail the provision of giving opportunity to the assessee, why should High Court give such power again to assessing officer? This is rather incomprehensible to me. If the AO has not chosen, then why it should be sent back to assessing officer, number one. Number two, if it is sent back to assessing officer, then high courts generally order that the assessment should be made in accordance with law. Now, the law says that assessment should be made within a particular time frame. There is a time barring provision. Now, that time barring provision has already passed. Now, whether assessing officer can make assessment after the time barring provision, then we will have to refer to section 153 of Income Tax Act, which provides provision for time barring. Now, in time barring provisions, we will find that if assessment is set aside in appeal by ITAT or by High Court or by Supreme Court, then time available to AO will be as per the time available for making a fresh assessment. But section 153 has no provision when assessment is set aside in writ petition. So if assessment is set aside in writ petition, then in my opinion, the assessing officer does not get any extra time. And if the time barring period is already passed, let assessing officer suffer, not the assessee should suffer. Number two, if the AO has not given you an opportunity, which he was mandatorily bound to give you opportunity, then who should bear the cost of going to High Court for filing appeal? Why should assessee bear such expenses? This is rather patently unjust that assessee has to suffer and the AO has no accountability. So whenever you file a writ, please always put a claim that our cost should be awarded because assessing officer is fully responsible. So that point should be kept in mind. Then next slide. Next slide. Next slide. This is over. Yes. Remedies for assessee facing intentional malice of the officers. Now, I will tell one thing. When I had prepared this PPT, at that time I had taken intentional malice of the officer. But there are decisions of Supreme Court which came to my notice later on. That malice of officer need not be intentional. His carelessness also may be categorized as malice. So if these are the situation, if there is abuse of power, then three remedies are available. Number one, proceedings before under the Contempt of Court Act. Number two, proceedings under the IPC for malified actions. Or number three, filing complaints on the administrative side. Now this malified action, यहाँ पे malified will be required to be proved, but not necessarily in all cases, and criminal action will lie. Now coming on first thing, Contempt of Court Act. Please, next slide. Next slide, please. Contempt proceedings. Next slide.
Sumit.
Contempt proceeding is shared.
In case the assessing officer refuses to follow the specific binding decision of the court on the issue in hand, then his conduct can amount to contempt of court, and contempt petition can be filed in the concerned court. It is to be noted that assessing officer can refuse to follow the decision of the higher court only when the operation of decision has been stayed in further proceedings and not otherwise. A mere pendency of appeal against the decision of a higher court does not entitle the officer to refuse to abide by the decision. In case the assessing officer refuses to follow the binding precedents, then he should be apprised of the fact that his conduct is violative of the judicial discipline, for which there can be adverse consequences. Now you collect the statistics all over the country. How many contempt petitions are filed? Almost nil. Almost nil. All India Federation of Tax Practitioners would ensure that at least some 10-15 contempts are filed every year, so that department is set right. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen. Now, one thing regarding contempt proceedings, I would like to tell, under Contempt of Court Act, not following binding decision of court is not contempt. Under Contempt of Court Act, not following binding decision of court is not contempt. But Supreme Court has held, it is judge-made law, that not following binding decision is a contempt. So please take note, if you go to read Contempt of Court Act, you may possibly find it is not legally permissible to file contempt. But if you go to Supreme Court decision, it is very clear that contempt can be filed if not binding decision is not followed. And contempt filed and it is successful, High Court observes that it is a case of contempt of court, then so many personal actions can be taken against the officers, which will come in my subsequent slides. Please, next slide. This is the decision. Rule of precedence and judicial discipline. In Barada Kanta, Misra versus Bhimsen Dixit, 1973, SCR 2495. The Honorable Supreme Court elaborated the scope of contempt and held that not following binding precedent of higher courts would amount to contempt. The Honorable Supreme Court had held. Now time is short, so I am not reading. Please circulate this. This is the gist of Honorable Supreme Court decision. Not following binding decision of higher court is contempt. It is not provided in Contempt of Court Act. I make it clear again. It is contempt by way of decision of Honorable Supreme Court. Then I would like to stress upon you that CIT appeal is bound by the decision of ITAT. And if CIT appeal does not follow ITAT decision, he says only High Court is binding, CIT appeal is also guilty of contempt of court. Then next slide. Bombay High Court has also held, so far as legal position is concerned, ITO would be bound by a decision of the Supreme Court as also by a decision of the High Court of the state within whose jurisdiction he is functioning, irrespective of the pendency of any appeal or SLP against the judgment. He would equally be bound by a decision of another High Court on the point, because not to follow their decision would cause grave prejudice to the assessee. Where there is a conflict between different High Courts, he must follow the decision of the High Court within whose jurisdiction he is functioning. But if the conflict is between decision of other High Courts, he must take the view which is in favor of the assessee and not against him. Similarly, if the ITAT has decided a point in favor of assessee, he cannot ignore that decision and take a contrary view, because that would equally prejudice the assessee. But ITAT is not a court. Possibly there may not be a case of contempt if ITAT decision is not followed. Possibly. I will impress upon that ITAT decision is binding on CIT appeal because of a Supreme Court decision in Kamlakshi Finance, in which Honorable Supreme Court said that ITAT decision is binding on CIT appeal. By virtue of that decision, CIT appeal is bound. So this is the binding precedent and against which we can raise contempt. Next slide. Proceedings under Section 166 Indian Penal Code, read with Section 293 Income Tax Act. Section 293 Income Tax Act provides protection to the officers for their bona fide actions. Please remember, for their bona fide actions. Not following binding decision of court, not giving opportunity despite mandated by law, they cannot be categorized as bona fide actions. They are per se mala fide. All officers under the Income Tax Act are public servants and are obliged to carry out their functions and duties as prescribed. We often come across instances where they fail to do so for ulterior motives. Some examples being withholding of refund, failure to pass orders giving appeal effect, delaying to decide the stay petitions, and refusing to return the seized assets, etc. In cases those actions are laced with malice and ulterior motives apart from civil remedies, a criminal action can also be initiated against the officer personally. In this regard, Section 166 Indian Penal Code comes into play. Section 166 Indian Penal Code comes into play. Please, next slide. I am reading the section. Public servant disobeying law with intent to causing injury to any person. Public servant disobeying law with intent to causing injury to any person. Whoever, being a public servant, knowingly disobeys any direction of the law. Please listen carefully all these wordings. They clearly fit where the AO is not giving opportunity. Where whoever, being a public servant, knowingly disobeys any direction of the law as to the way in which he is to conduct himself as such public servant, intending to cause or knowing it to be likely that he will by such disobedience cause injury to any person. Please remember the words intending to cause or knowing it to be likely. मतलब उसको ये तो पता है असेसिंग ऑफिसर को कि मैं एक्स पार्टी हाई पिच असेसमेंट कर दूंगा तो मैं इंजरी कर रहा हूं. Knowing it to be likely that he will by such disobedience cause injury to any person shall be punished with simple imprisonment for a term which may extend to 1 year or with fine or with both. I have very successfully given notice to officer and got results sometimes within even hours. Thus, if the officer refuses to pass order within the time frame prescribed under the Act, rules, circulars, or judicial decisions, then a complaint can be filed under Section 166 Indian Penal Code, provided it can be shown that the action of the officer was willful or knowingly that it will be causing harm, injury to the assessee, or with both. So this is the provision which possibly you have not exercised, but I have exercised and with very, very good results. You can try it. Our federation, Tax Practitioner Federation, should ensure that at least there should be 4 or 5 cases in a year in whole country. Then everything will be set right. Next slide, please. Section 293, Income Tax Act, protections for any action taken in good faith. It is pertinent to note that Section 293 of IT Act protects the officer from acts done in good faith. The said section reads as under: no prosecution, suit, or other proceedings lies against the government or any officer of the government for anything in good faith done or intended to be done under this act. Now, I have already told, not following binding decision, not giving you opportunity despite mandate of law. He is giving opportunity to save so many others and not to you. These are the facts on the basis of which you can prove that he is not acting bona fide, he is not acting in good faith. And sometimes order itself is a proof that this is bona fide and for which there is a decision of Supreme Court. Next slide. A malified action or a willful disobedience of the statutory dictate cannot be said to be an act done in good faith under the Act, and therefore the protection will not be available to the officer. Some instances are as follows: taking absurd view of the law, making recovery when a stay is operative, Jwala Prasad versus Verma 78 IPR. Not following binding decision, no protection, Pragdas versus ITO. Therefore, the officer cannot take the benefit of protection available under the section if he is guilty of any willful default or omission towards his duty. Next slide. Some tips for filing complaints under 166 IPC. Complaints can be filed in the jurisdiction where the offense is committed. That is the place where the officer holds the office. Care may be taken to ensure that the prosecution is filed within the limitation period, if any, applicable to the case. Waiting till the decision of appeal against the order may time bar the remedy of prosecution in some cases. Sanction of the authority prescribed under Section 197 CRPC is necessary before the cognizance is taken by the magistrate, which many times is tricky to obtain. Next. When you file an application before authority to give sanction to launch prosecution against the officer, then the authority may sit silent on your application In that case, you may have to file a writ petition against the officer, and that officer who is giving permission and the assessing officer both will be in trouble. There is a presumption of good faith in favor of the officer. Therefore, assessee will have to rebut that presumption and prove that officer was guilty of a willful default. It may be noted that proof of actual bias is not necessary. Please note, it may be noted that proof of actual bias is not necessary. This may work good in faceless assessment. A willful and deliberate refusal to do a statutory duty without any reasonable cause, despite being requested to do so, ipso facto amounts to malice in law. Malice in law, matlab, law presumes that you have done malice. No need of proving any fact that he was bona fide against me, or he had some dispute with me, or he was angry with me. It is malice in law and may render the officer liable for prosecution. This is the case Ravi Yaswant Bhoir versus District Collector Raigad and others. Supreme Court. It is a deliberate act in disregard to the right of others. It is an act which is taken with an oblique or indirect object. It is an act done wrongfully and willfully without reasonable or probable cause, and not necessarily an act done from ill feeling and spite. Then above remedy is to be noted. The above remedy, it is to be noted, is in addition to civil remedies for the issues at hand, and the criminal prosecution officer will not result in automatic setting aside of the offending orders. आपको ऑर्डर की अपील तो करनी पड़ेगी, बट 2-4 ऑफिसर को भी आपने लेसन सिखा दिए, आपका काम हो गया, डिपार्टमेंट विल बी सेट राइट. Your practice will not be of a beggar. Your practice will be of a real professional. Next. Complaints are administrative side. The contumacious conduct of the offending officer can also be complained to the superior officers in the department. Supreme Court has held in the case of Krishna Prasad Verma versus State of Bihar that if there are extraneous considerations for contumacious conduct, then disciplinary inquiry should be initiated. And even in cases where there is no extraneous influence, then such matters ought to be considered while framing the service record of the officer. मतलब ऑफिसर का जो एनुअल परफॉर्मेंस रिपोर्ट लिखा जाएगा, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने कहा है कि उसमें उसकी एंट्री होना चाहिए और उसका प्रमोशन रुकना चाहिए. सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने फर्दर ऑब्जर्व्ड in case a judicial officer passes order which are against alleged legal norms, but there is no allegation of any extraneous influences leading to the passing of such orders, then the appropriate action which the High Court should take is to record such material on the administrative side and place it on the service record of the judicial officer concerned. These matters can be taken into consideration while considering career progression of the concerned judicial officer. Once note of the wrong order is taken and they form part of the service record, these can be taken into consideration to deny selection, grade, promotion, etc. And in case there is a continuous flow of wrong or illegal orders, then the proper action would be to compulsorily retire the judicial officer in accordance with the rules. We again reiterate that unless there are clear-cut allegations of misconduct, extraneous influences, gratification of any kind, etc., disciplinary proceedings should not be initiated merely on the basis of a wrong order which has been passed by the judicial officer, or merely on the ground that the judicial order is incorrect. Disciplinary proceedings cannot be taken because he has a discretion to pass order, but if discretion has been exercised mala fide, it is high pitch assessment, then it must be recorded in his service record. You ensure it is recorded in service record. You make a complaint to higher authority while recording his annual report. He has passed such a high pitch assessment which is directly against the mandate of law, and it should be recorded. And there is a flow of such orders, he should be compulsorily retired. We should take lead to point out such officers and get 1 or 2 officers compulsorily retired in this manner. These observations of Supreme Court work very well even in faceless assessment, because the High Court Supreme Court has clearly held even if there is no allegation of any extraneous influences leading to passing of such orders, still in such cases, order itself may be a proof that there is a malice. Next slide. investigation wing should be decentralized. This is biggest roadblock to us. In investigation wing, Director General authorizes search, his person prepares appraisal report, his person makes assessment, his person decides the appeal. His persons approve the order under 153D. His person gives a stay, everything centralized. Therefore, we cannot expect proper justice. At least CIT appeal should be independent and assessing officer should be independent of the authority who has authorized the search. The authorization of search is done by one Director General, then officer must be under some other Director General. Investigation wing should be decentralized to avoid congregation of power. Power to award costs should also be given to CIT appeal. This is my view. It should be expressly given. But there is a school of thought that CIT appeal has inherent power of awarding cost, which they are not exercising. CIT appeal should award cost in deserving cases, particularly where the AO has medicine without giving proper opportunity and in violation of binding decisions. We should have one ground of appeal also, that cost should be awarded. The association should create a forum where the tax practitioner can report their problems and collective action can be taken against offending practices of particular officers. CIT appeal are subordinate to CCIT, who has target for tax collection. These CIT appeals many a time refrains from deleting high-pitch additions, lest it would disrupt the tax collection target of the superior. This is an impingement on the independence of CIT appeal. Therefore, CIT appeal, when he is acting as one, should be independent under law ministry like ITAT and should not be under any subordination of CCIT. Next, I am finishing. 1 raised to power 2 365 will always remain 1. But 1.01 raised to power 365 will become 37.7. Doing nothing at all, you will remain at 1 only. But if you take a very small consistent effort, 1 will become 37 in 1 year. Please take some proactive action and save yourself and your assessees from abuse of power of officers. I complete my lecture. I invite your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for the excellent presentation. Narenji, we can take some questions before sir.
And thereafter, we would also like to listen to Madam Seema Khurana Patra ji also, because she has observed everything so kindly.
You have not pointed out. I could have finished earlier. Anyway.
Let us take quickly some questions. One question was, can...
पहले मैडम का सुन ले मैं.
Yes, sure.
Madam, you need to unmute.
Yes. Actually, what Mr. Pawan Vedji said, he said that you should complain against the officer to the senior officers, and you should be free to do it. My experience has been that the practitioners, the CAs, there is a lot of hesitancy in complaining against the officers. When I was posted in a small Mufassil charge many years ago, there was a particular junior officer who was, creating havoc, who was abusing, law abuse, all kinds of things was going on. So people were disturbed, and a contingent of 40 CAs had come and met me, and with a delegation, and they gave a memorandum saying this, saying that, but stopped short of naming anyone. So I asked them, I know exactly what you're trying to say. Aap naam to likhiye. But they refused. They said, nahi, humko to idhar hi rehna hai, and we stay here, aap chale jayenge, hum ye wo. So it is easier said than done. They don't want to complain. So this is what I thought I should just say.
But that is possible in Mufassil places, not in bigger places like Bombay, Delhi. My experience is that department has already written off Mufassil charges. Its consideration is only on Bombay, Delhi, because major revenue comes from there. And in Bombay, Delhi, there is no such complaint. They are afraid of some particular officer.
Okay.
But
maybe smaller.
Whether afraid or not, somebody will have to become Bhagat Singh.
Correct.
To set the system right.
Yes.
And if we take the action at federation level, If Federation makes a secretariat and calls grievances of the chartered accountants and practitioners, and then give one full basket of complaints against particular officer, certainly there will be improvement.
Correct.
It is our duty. Department has not done in last 50 years. I have been seeing. There is absolutely no accountability. I can tell. I have given notice under 166 to very senior officer of the department, and my work was done same day. Same day. You should be sure that you are right.
Yes.
If your associate evaded tax and he has so many ifs and buts, then he will never tell you to fight. But if you are clear, you have to fight. You are fighting for the justice. We have no grievance against the officer. We are grievance against injustice, and we must have raised grievance. Now government has failed.
Respected Sri S.R. Wadhwa is with us. Despite another meeting, he has been kind enough to join, and he is raising his hand. Better we also listen to him, the former chairman of Income Tax Settlement Commission.
Welcome, sir. Welcome.
I know Wadhwa sir very well. We have met long ago.
Welcome, Wadhwa sir.
Welcome, sir.
Sir.
Yes, sir.
I have very carefully heard your speech and your prescriptions against high-pitched assessments. Sir, I have seen.
My lord, sir, आप मेरे को सर ना बोले, आप मेरे बहुत सीनियर और बहुत पूजनीय हैं.
नहीं सर, this
पवन बोलेंगे जो डिपार्टमेंट में प्रैक्टिस है. I will be happier.
It's a respect to a speaker.
नहीं सर, बिल्कुल नहीं. आप मुझे पवन कह के पुकारे, I will be happier. मैं आपका जूनियर हूँ, छोटा भाई हूँ सर.
तो मेरी रिक्वेस्ट ये है कि जैसे मैडम ने कहा, डिपार्टमेंट जो है, it becomes vindictive. I was Chief Commissioner of Income Tax, Calcutta. To CIT appeals, I would say, please decide the way you like. I only want from you the reasons. No action will be taken against you, but no CIT appeal will take a decision boldly and otherwise. Now, there is a fear psychosis. Now, that has to go. Unfortunately, the taxpayer feels that he has to deal with the same assessing officer, the same CIT appeal, the same commissioner. Now, that is the big problem. In our time, sir, I have got board's instructions from 1898, where they were set up till now. Board used to issue instructions on contentious points which were favorable to the taxpayer, and they expected that those instructions shall be followed. CIT's administration would never interfere with the discretion of the CIT appeal. I was AAC Central Range, not CIT appeal, AAC Central Range Meerut. My CIT would never interfere with my discretion. Dr. Jagjeevan Ram, I just give one example. Professor Mr. Jagjeevan Ram forgot to file his return, and the commissioner did not levy the penalty under section 271(1)(a) on the ground that forgetfulness is a reasonable cause. I deleted all the penalties under 271(1)(a) where this reason was forgetfulness. The commissioner never asked me, Mr. Wadhwa, why are you? I said, I am following Jagjeevan Ram. Now that used to be the practice in our good old days. Now we have to convince our officers that you exercise your discretion in a bona fide manner with proper reasons, and no action will be taken. Only then we can have a bold, proper, well reasoned. Second, what we should do is, why? Our officers should be trained. Now, when I joined the service, I was given 8,000 income cases. First 8,000. The assumption limit was 3,600. So some 200, 500 cases. Now, when my ISC got my cases inspected, and he was convinced that I am capable, even after 2 years of training, I'm capable of making proper assessments, he gave me the normal charge. Otherwise, I was additional charge. 8,000 income was my maximum limit. No, we do not follow the proper procedures. We do not train our officers. We do not give them confidence. And our officers know nothing except that the senior officers, they would like to pressurize the man by demand raise karo, collection karni. No, unfortunately, that is the department has been reduced to. Otherwise, your lecture was beautiful. And if I go and make a complaint, I am now a practitioner. My son, Ajay Badwa, perhaps we have got the largest number of cases in Delhi before the tribunal. Now, if we go and make complaints, our practice will be reduced to zero, because all the session officers, all the commissioners will become our sworn enemies. Now, this is our fear, and this has actually happened. So, my request is how this thing can be changed. Issue instructions, clear-cut instructions, and they should be public documents, so that the taxpayer can say that this is your instruction and you're not following. So on contentious issues, apart from the judgments of the courts, we should consult the Ministry of Law, proper instructions which are fair, reasonable, and not pro-revenue.
Sir, I will like to tell one thing. It was your personality that your officers did not interfere in your work. Otherwise, this is general practice. चीफ कमिश्नर्स बोलते हैं कि ये मेरा आदमी अलो कर दीजिए, इसको कंफर्म कर दीजिए.
गलत है
गलत कि इस असेसी ने जो है डिपार्टमेंट के सर्वे के अगेंस्ट में प्रदर्शन किया था, इसकी अपील कंफर्म कर दीजिए.
अब आपने एक और बात कही.
You are sound in law, you will not come under such pressure. You are sound in law, you did not.
बिल्कुल ठीक है. एक आपने दूसरी सजेशन की.
You did not come under pressure, but somebody who is attacking bad intention and passing wrong order, he will always be fearful of his boss.
Now, Jain साहब यहाँ सुन रहे हैं.
And subsequently, one more thing which you pointed out, okay, you will lose practice. I will tell another thing. New cases will come. Okay, you fight these officers. We want to teach them lesson.
I don't know.
You want a bold liar. Please find a case against him.
No, I will give you another point. Now, I am the chairman of the representation committee of the All India Federation of Tax Practitioners. You suggested that the federation should do 4 or 5 such cases. I invite the people here, get me those cases, and I assure them that I will take up the matter at the highest level. I am the member of the IRS Unlimited. I will take up the matter at the highest level to get them the justice without fighting litigation. But you will not find 4 or 5 members because of the fear that they will lose practice. That is the problem. And they will lose practice.
Take action at highest level, nothing will come out except 1 or 2 vigilance cases will come.
Anyway,
you take direct action, file 166 IPC, and you will get...
But your lecture has been really very good. And your
Narendra Bhai, can we have some questions? Narendra Bhai?
Now go the question answer.
Yes, sir.
Instant result मिलेगा आपको. Instant आप 166 IPC लगाइए, उसके खिलाफ criminal case सीधा हो जाएगा.
The suggestions are very good. It's really good. Yes. Now we can have some questions.
Thank you, Vadwa.
Thank you, sir. So I'll quickly take some questions, sir. There was one question which, sir, can a notice under section 153C be issued after 1421 when the search has been conducted prior to 31/3/21?
Yes, provision is very clear. It can be issued.
Another question is, can the investigating...
It has its relevance with date of search. The date of search before 31/3/21, old provisions will apply.
So next question is, can an investigating officer during search now at present ask for information prior to 1417? Can he ask for any document prior to 1417? Because now reassessment process is for 3 years, and during search the assessment gets automatically reopened.
Investigation officer के powers पे कोई restriction मेरे opinion में नहीं है. He can ask for any year, even after an amended provision.
लेकिन इसका ऑब्जेक्ट ये नहीं है कि they can travel anywhere. They should ask only relevant information and they can make only relevant inquiries. When I talk relevant means for relevant assessment year for which he is empowered.
Whether any matter is pending or not pending, for the purpose of investigation, he can ask anything. 131(1)A. But there is a rider. There is decision of an Allahabad High Court which says that before issuing 131 also he should record reasons to why I am issuing. Because his action of issuing 131 is justiciable in a court. You cannot issue 131 to any lame person, any layman. It is justiciable in a court. If you want to challenge, he is harassing me by issuing 131, what will be his defense? So it must be written in writing. It must be written on in his file. I want to issue 131 because of this reason. And if that reason is not sufficient, certainly he can be booked.
More questions,
No,
please.
no law gives him unbridled power to do anything in any way he wishes.
Thank you, sir. The next question is Kolkata ITAT has allowed relief in the penny stock cases. Still, the CIT appeals are not following those verdicts. I think you already answered while taking up the PPT.
You must book CIT appeal. I have already told. He
Yes,
must follow. You take personal action against the officer, then he will be set right.
CIT appeal or assessing officer, you see, they can have a stand which they will have that there is no clear-cut order. Every order of income tax appellate tribunal depends upon the facts and circumstances of that case.
My case will arise only when facts are exactly similar.
Facts of all cases is not necessarily the same. So we have to continue fighting.
I tell you one thing, when you file appeal against order of CIT appeal, please make first ground of appeal. CIT appeal was obliged to follow ITAT decision. He could not take any other view. Second ground of appeal, he has compelled us to come to ITAT, please award us cost. And third, fallacy in all LTCG cases. They generally record that this LTCG has been obtained in a pre-planned manner to convert black money into white money. Sometimes they record reasons also. I am reopening because it is a pre-planned, mandated, premeditated transaction. If it is a premeditated transaction, then who will do it? Who has black money at the time of purchase of shares, not at the time of sale of shares. If he has black money at the time of purchase of shares, how can he be taxed in the year when it is sold?
ट्रिब्यूनल के केसेस
No,
4 भी है against me.
any court. It can be taxed only in the year of purchase if it is a pre-planned transaction. मैंने कम से कम मतलब 300 डिसीजन देख लिए होंगे, किसी ने भी ये आर्गुमेंट नहीं उठाया. ऐसा कैसे हो सकता है? यदि मैंने मेरा 2 नंबर का पैसा 1 नंबर में करने के लिए शेयर खरीदा है, तो जब खरीदा तब मेरे पास 2 नंबर था. आपकी बात से आप कह रहे हो कि प्री मेडिटेटेड है, मैं थोड़ी कह रहा हूं. तो आप उसी ईयर में ऐड कीजिए जिस साल में मैंने खरीदा था.
Next question.
Next question is 148 for the same assessment year. Notice has been received on 31/3/21, as well as second notice comes on 30th June 2021 for the same assessment year, and both notices say that it is with the approval of the appropriate authority.
जब फर्स्ट नोटिस इशू हो गया है तो दैट नोटिस का असेसमेंट पेंडिंग है. जब असेसमेंट पेंडिंग होता है तो असेसमेंट एस्केप नहीं हो सकता. When assessment is pending, then you cannot say that income has escaped assessment. इसलिए second notice is invalid.
But sir, can both the notices not be invalid on the ground that there is no proper approval? Because same issue, same.
Second तो इसी ground पे valid हो गया कि first में assessment open पड़ा हुआ है. जब assessment open है, वो निजाम का decision है सुप्रीम कोर्ट का कि जब assessment open है तो you cannot allege escapement of income. आप assessment में कर लीजिए. There was no necessity of second notice.
Next.
Sir, next question is in 143(2). It is mentioned that furnish reply in connection with on issues involving reopening rather than the reasons for reopening. So can the SSC reply confined only to the reasons of reopening rather than
yes. You should reply. You restrict yourself to the point of reopening, nothing else.
No, but they give
you more information. You will be inviting trouble for yourself.
Because they give the questionnaire. They write it clearly in the notice that it will be in trenches. It is not that in one notice they are dealing with every issue. I've seen the notices.
You first ask for reasons recorded for reopening. Then reason said it is for unexplained case credit. You say you cannot make inquiry on any other point.
Yes, sir. You explained.
आपको उसमें एक बात बतलाना भूल गया कि जो नया प्रोविजन आया उसमें लिखा है which comes to his notice subsequently. If you are able to prove that information was already in his record before issue of 148, उसका एडिशन नहीं कर पाएगा. It is not come to him subsequently.
And so the last question is ki, what is the remedy available for notices under section 148 for against which return could not be submitted on time because there was server of income tax was down since 1st of June.
अब फाइल कर दो, अभी तो फाइल
Purely
अभी
a
भी नहीं हो
factual
रहा है
question. It is not a legal question.
ना ना, ये अभी भी फाइल नहीं हो रहा है. We have returned to the chairman of the board
फेडरेशन को
and,
CBDT को
and
मिलकर
today we had also invited Shri J.B. Mahapatra, the learned chairman, to inaugurate this program, but he had some preoccupation, so he said today I cannot join. So anyway, we have already taken up this issue with the Honorable Finance Minister
in all cases,
and the Chairman
if it was not
CBDT.
filed,
They should take up.
condoned and compensation should also be given. Government and department should establish its good wishes. क्या बोलते हैं उसको, अपनी इज्जत रखने के लिए बोलना चाहिए कि we will not charge any appeal filing fee in such cases.
अच्छा, मेरे दो points हैं which I would like to explain for the benefit of our participants. One is that there is section 152. 152 has not undergone any change. That remains as it is. And there are very few people who take benefit of this. You see, 152 subsection 2.
Anyway, tell me your
section 2, sir. That says that where the assessment is reopened. It's very interesting provision. I have used it in some of my cases. Where an assessment is reopened under section 147, the assessee may, if he has not impugned any part of the original assessment order for that year, either in any appeal or under section 264, he can claim, assessee can claim that the proceedings under section 147 shall be dropped. He is showing that he had been assessed on the amount or on a sum not lower than what he would be rightly liable for, even if the income alleged to have escaped assessment had been taken into account, or the assessment or computation had been properly made.
आपका क्वेश्चन रखिए.
दूसरा बात एक और है.
नहीं, आपका क्वेश्चन रखिए, इसमें क्या कहना चाहता है 152 में? वो तो प्रोविजन तो मैंने सुन लिया.
We should make use of this provision. It's not my question.
We should make.
The other thing is
का डिसीजन हुआ है सुप्रीम कोर्ट का 198 IPR 297. उसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने ये क्लियर कर दिया है कि 148 इज फॉर एस्केपमेंट ऑफ इनकम. इट इज नॉट फॉर गिविंग यू एन अपॉर्चुनिटी टू मेक ए फ्रेश क्लेम. लेकिन 152 उसका एक एक्सेप्शन है जो सेक्शन में दिया है कि इफ यू आर ऑलरेडी असेस्ड एट एन इनकम हायर देन व्हाट यू शुड हैव बीन legally should have been assessed, then to the extent of higher income you should get benefit. लेकिन उसमें सेक्शन में एक मिस्टेक रह गया है तो वो बेनिफिट तभी मिलेगा जब एंटायर एडिशन इज टू बी ड्रॉप. तो सपोज रीओपनिंग आपका किया है 10 लाख के एडिशन करने के लिए और आपका 8 लाख रुपया आपने ऑलरेडी शो कर दिया है तो यू कैन नॉट क्लेम, और 10 लाख शो कर दिया तो यू कैन क्लेम. लेकिन हाईकोर्ट में आर्टिकल 142 के अंतर्गत यू कैन गेट रिलीफ.
एक और नरेंद्र भाई एक सेक्शन है जिसके बारे में मैंने इंडिकेट किया था, सेक्शन 292BB, नोटिस डीम्ड टू बी वैलिड इन सर्टेन सर्कमस्टांसेस. तो ये क्या है कि देखिए इसमें भी पेंच है, ज्यादा डरने का जरूरत नहीं है. ये क्या कहते हैं सेक्शन, वेयर एन असेसी हैज अपीयर्ड इन एनी प्रोसीडिंग और कोऑपरेटेड इन एनी इंक्वायरी रिलेटिंग टू एन असेसमेंट और रीअसेसमेंट, it shall be deemed that any notice under any provision of this act which is required to be served upon him has been duly served upon him in time in accordance with the provisions of this act, and such assessees shall be precluded from taking any objection in any proceeding or inquiry under this act. That the notice was, you see, these are the 3 items जिसको objection आप नहीं कर सकते हैं. The 3 items is the notice was not served upon him, or notice was not served upon him in time, or served upon him in an improper manner. These are the three items. Then this section further says by way of a proviso that nothing contained in this section, means what I have said above, shall apply where the assessee has raised such objection before the completion of such assessment or reassessment. अपना कोई भी objection है कि in course of assessment, before completion of assessment or reassessment, हम लोग in writing, ये क्या है कि हम लोग का ज्यादा आदत कई बार क्या है कि वर्बली काम करते हैं. अब तो क्या फेसलेस भी हो गया, वर्बली का जमाना चला गया.
मेरी बात सुन लो.
जो भी चीज हम कहना चाहते हैं ऑफिसर्स को,
बात समझ लीजिए,
whether in assessment sir, or whether in first appeal or in future before the ITAT, we should send in writing, keeping a proof of that yes, we have communicated it to them. That's all.
मेरा पॉइंट ये है कि 292BB जो है, this is related only to service of notice. It has nothing to do with issue of notice. यदि issue टाइम से नहीं हुआ है, so that does not get remedied by 292BB. Number one. Number two, 292BB is a procedural provision. Okay, there is mistake in procedure, then that mistake is remedied because you have participated. लेकिन procedural provision अलग होता है और jurisdictional provision अलग होता है. तो यदि AO के पास jurisdiction नहीं है, तो he does not get protection of 292BB. So suppose wrong officer had issued you notice, then he does not get protection. Wrong officer, jurisdiction cannot be given by you. Jurisdiction can be given only by law, by notification, not by you. So if you participate and give jurisdiction, then there may be havoc. You are in Calcutta, you have some friend in Raipur, you file a written in Raipur and say, okay, please assess me. And he has assessed, say I am already assessed. But right has no jurisdiction.
Next question.
There are no more questions, sir. There are no more questions.
Very good. I am happy. I am tired also.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Naranji, you have something to add?
Thank you, sir.
नहीं, मेरे को जो मटेरियल देना था दे दिया. अब मेरे को
आज के शुरुआत के अंदर में मैंने कहा था कि आज का सेशन यादगार सेशन होगा. तो हमारे आज की उत्सव मूर्ति जो सीमा जी हैं, उनके आने के बाद में और वाधवा साहब के और पवन वैद्य जी के सहयोग से आज का यह सेशन अनडाउटेडली बहुत यादगार सेशन हो गया है. और पवन वैद्य जी को कहता के लिए कहना है कि आपका पीपीटी मंथन और विवेचन आज का अद्भुत अतुलनीय रहा है और हम सभी इससे बहुत लाभान्वित हुए हैं. थैंक्स फॉर हाईलाइटिंग द इनोवेटिव चैलेंजेस ahead in new reassessment. Thanks for explaining the risk management strategy and role of CAG. And a big thank you for your PPT, which is eye opener. Thank you, sir.
बरखा है ना, formal vote of thanks के लिए बरखा है तो.
है. Today we are fortunate to have such great personalities like Madam and Wadhwa sir, Pavanji, Chand sir on DTPA platform. It was a great opportunity to hear them. Madam, you like to give some concluding remarks? So I now request.
Make a request कि मैडम को और पवन जी को कि in future also we may be remembering you kindly.
Definitely, sir. It's our pleasure.
Favor us by coming. हाँ, बरखा आ गई है.
I request our Joint Secretary Barkha Agarwal to propose a formal vote of thanks for the dignitaries.
Thank you, President sir. I thank on behalf of DTPA and today's participants to our chief guest, Mrs. Seema Khurana Patra, and speakers Advocate Narayan Jain and Advocate Pavan Baid for sparing their valuable time and giving insight knowledge on new provisions of reassessment, natural justice, and remedies against abuse of power by authorities. I thank all the participants for patient hearing. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And thanks to all the participants. From 4 o'clock for 2.5 hours, more than 2.5 hours, they have been with us. So we are all obliged to them also. And there are participants from all over India. It's not only Calcutta. There are people from all over India, and they are also contacting me that they are attending.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, sir.
We'll end the meeting, sir. Thank you.